Welcome to No More Rules, the impact of being you, no matter what. A movement to awaken your inner power and be the creator of your own healthy life. With hosts Steph, Yost, and Camille Barreto, where clean eating is at the core of our inner growth by honoring our body and health. They will help shift perceptions, encourage thinking outside the box, and overcoming limiting behaviors and beliefs. You are worthy of living your best life, developing your inner power with clean eating and healthy lifestyle, and discovering your awesomeness. No More Rules starts now.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I am Camille, and today, unfortunately, Steph can't join us. She's headed back to Florida, and she just felt like getting in on Zoom. That might be in and out. But everybody, I have been waiting forever to interview Mr. Carl Mason, our guest today. Thank you for joining us. So let me tell you a little bit about Carl to introduce him. He is a holistic cancer coach. Through a traumatic childhood to cancer and even blindness, Carl discovered and now teaches how to align with truth, source, and life. Within them lies every provision required for us to live healthy, vibrant, and abundant lives. Having attained miraculous healing, he has spent the last 26 years cancer-free, congratulations, and now empowering others to achieve the same. Greater still, teaching others how to live life they were created and destined to live. He's 55, living his best life on the Pacific coast of Mexico. Let's welcome Carl Mason to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.
I'm officially 56 as of yesterday.
That's right. That's right. Happy birthday.
One more year. So I'm pushing into 27 years cancer-free now.
Oh, congratulations.
Good. Thank you.
So you're on Facebook. You utilize Facebook a lot, and I just happened to come across you, and so much of what you were talking about was resonating with me. I mean, you are just a genuine, authentic, like true to spirit human being, and you are helping so many people and inspiring so many people. Tell us a little bit about your journey, Carl, and how it's led you to do what you're doing today.
My journey, well, that could take the whole call. My journey began, it was in 1993. I was just about to turn 26, so it was 30 years ago. I had a very abusive childhood. Trauma that I didn't even begin to comprehend and understand, both physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional, mental abuse, and religious abuse. It was all there. And I had gone through about a decade by that time, a decade of really deep, intense anger, resentment, just really rage at times towards the people involved. And I'd gone through anorexia. As a result of that, it was all self-destructive behavior, all those feelings of not being worth anything and all of that. But I didn't know that any of that meant anything at all, actually. And then cancer showed up. My cancer story began very rapidly. I succumbed to severe symptom. The word symptoms comes to mind, but symptoms is the word I'll use, very quickly. So I was unable to eat. I was unable to sleep through the night without sweating and changing the sheets, and I couldn't shower without passing out. And everything happened very quickly within a couple of months.
Okay.
I was busy at the time, though, building 3 businesses. I had just gotten married. I just bought a house, was buying cars, and all of this stuff was going on. So life was really hectic and busy, and everything that I was experiencing, all the symptoms that I was experiencing were dismissed to stress. So it took a long time for the doctors to ever even diagnose me. And the diagnosis finally came when I went to my best friend's house, he was a doctor. Family doctor. And I drove myself to his house, and his name was David. And I said, David, somebody's got to help me. I'm gonna die within 2 weeks. I can feel it. How severe the symptoms were. And I said, I'm desperate. And he reached out and gave me a hug. And when he gave me a hug, he said, Carl, I'm sending you to the hospital right now. And he made a couple phone calls. 30 minutes later, I was in the hospital, and I thought, okay, I'll finally get a pill, and in a couple hours, I'll go home, and everything will be fine. Well, not how it happened at all. I ended up a couple hours later getting the diagnosis, being told that they were going to put ports in my chest, and chemo was to start immediately, and all this language and stuff was coming at me with things I didn't know, even understand. I'd never discussed cancer a day in my life. I didn't know anybody who had ever had cancer. I knew nothing about it. I had a complete emotional breakdown about it, threw a tantrum like a little child not getting their way, kicked everybody, doctors and everybody, out of the hospital room, locked myself in the bathroom, screamed, cried, cursed, told God off, you name it, I did it. It was a pretty ugly scene. And then I emerged and I surrendered. I surrendered to whatever protocol they threw at me. And I spent the next 5 years enduring those protocols to no good end. And I actually ended up with congestive heart failure, damaged disc, damaged joints, all kinds of things as a result of the treatments. And just to end up being told that there was no more to do, go home and prepare to die within about a month. I really wasn't willing to accept that. I just knew in my heart of hearts that there had to be something. There had to be a different way. And so part of my dying wish list was to go to Rocky Mountain National Park, and I wanted to spend a day communing with moose in their natural habitat. I had a very bizarre dying wish, but it was my prevailing wish. It was the one thing that there just was no option for me. It had to happen. So I set off. Everybody said, Carl, it'll kill you. There's no way you'll survive it. You can't do that. I said, well, you've given me 4 weeks or so to live. So if I die today doing something I want to do versus laying in bed 4 weeks from now, I'm going to choose this route. So I went. I hiked and I hiked and I hiked all day long, and not a moose to be found. Any other kind of creature you could imagine, but not a moose to be found. And it was sunset by then. I was bitten and bruised and banged from hiking and everything for the entire day. And I was in the car headed out towards the exit. And I'm thinking to myself, God, I don't understand. I had an abusive home, barely made it through with my life then. And now here I am, and you can't even give me a moose. What did I do to deserve this? Why am I so rejected? Why don't you love me? That was the feelings that I had. And I was headed home to die. I was just going to curl up in a ball and die with no sense of purpose or will to live. And but a herd of elk blocked the road, and we couldn't go anywhere. We were just stuck. And everybody got out of the car because the elk were pretty tame. So everybody got out of the car, walking around. And I heard a woman say, I see a moose. Energy rose up within me. It was, I don't know where it came from. I do know where it came from. But at the time, I didn't really understand it. I shot through the forest, down the ravine, through the pine trees, ended up on the banks of the headwaters of the Colorado River at the bottom of Long's Peak, and standing there with 3 bull moose. And two laid down beside me, one on each side, and one stood in front of me. Crowd gathered behind me. And it was beyond my dream come true. Standing there, crying, tears just flowing, people gathered behind me, park rangers behind me. Normally they'd be screaming to get out, safety and all of that. It seemed like everybody understood that something unusual was going on. And I was having a spiritual, revelational, enlightening moment. And I heard a voice as clear as ours today on this call, that said, choose life. It was just crystal clear. And I knew in that moment that it was truly a choice. And I knew that there would be grace and provision either way. I knew that I could walk out of there, choose to go home and die, and there would be grace and peace to do that. I also knew, though, that if I was given the choice to live, that there was full provision for it. So I chose to trust in that provision, and I chose life. And I walked out of the park, and I didn't have another thought after that about dying from cancer. And the journey took a complete turn from there. I walked away from standard of care, and I trusted. I knew that the provision was there. I knew that it would be revealed. I just needed to persist and persist in that knowing. It was a deep, abiding knowing that provision would be provided, or had been provided, be delivered, and I would live. And I did. So that was how my journey began, and how I then shifted from standard of care after 5 years to all natural for the last 27 years, nearly 27 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I don't
amazing.
know.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of details in there that I haven't shared, but
Yeah.
I'll lean on you to ask the question.
Yeah, but the odds of like 3 moose surrounding you like
Yeah.
that, and the words coming out, that is divine, isn't it?
I teach a lot about this. I teach a lot about knowing. It's a profound shift, because you can believe all day long. You can believe in God, you can believe in trees, you can believe in cats. I'm looking at a cat right now. You can believe all day long, but do you know? There's a very big difference between believing and knowing. And that was a revelation that I had that day. I came in from believing that there had to be something else to knowing that there was something else, and knowing that in the spirit, it had already been given to me. And so my job wasn't to force anything, wasn't to struggle and strive. My job was to allow it and just receive it and let it flow to me. And it did. The flow was just flawless over the next 7 or so months.
You say it so beautifully and articulately. My current husband, he is a very beautiful, kind soul, but I got on this journey like you, because when he met me, I was fairly wounded still, and very scared of a partner that wasn't going to be kind and good to me. But as I got on this journey, he said, if I didn't know any better, I would say that you had a personality disorder, because who I met and fell in love with and who I'm married to today, and this was in a matter of 2-3 years,
Wow.
is completely 2 different people. But I don't understand what journey you're on. Like, this is kind of foreign to me. And I just said exactly what you said, Carly. Said, you may not understand it, but it is an inner knowing that I am on the right journey. Yeah. So I don't know if you can trust that, but I trust it. And I said, how does this make you feel? And he said, it doesn't matter how it makes me feel. I have a happier, healthy wife today. And that's all that matters.
That's awesome.
And that's a beautiful partner, right?
It is.
In the whole thing. And so he's gotten on this journey with me as well. So my next question for you, because I've just read so much about you, like after that occurred, the healing that started to take place, what was the timeline with the healing with the cancer then after that particular incident?
Well, I had been through standard of care again for 5 years, and that was chemo, radiation, surgeries. People would argue that saved my life. The problem with it was that, and I'm taking a long road around, but the problem with it was that while I was in the treatments, it kept me alive, miserably alive. Yeah. As soon as I got off the treatments, though, it was like a bonfire. I did just the smoldering embers that were left behind from the treatment just erupted. And my recurrences were more and more extreme with each one. I had 3 recurrences over that 5 years. Every single time I went off of treatments, I had a major recurrence. So I had to ultimately, I didn't have to, I shouldn't say it that way. I ultimately chose to walk away from standard of care altogether. I kept a final appointment with my oncologist, and just to walk into his office and tell him that I'm not going to go any further. And he said to me, "I'll stand at your grave." And I said, "No, you won't." And I walked out, and I never saw him again. I don't even remember his name. I totally disconnected. Walked out, never looked back. I haven't had a scan, a test of any shape or form in 27 years. None. And so I didn't know, though, it was a massive leap of faith, because I walked away from what I knew and what was familiar, even though I knew it wasn't working. I walked away from it into total unknown, not having a clue what that provision that I felt promised was going to look like. I didn't have the slightest idea what that would look like. So it was a step-by-step, day-by-day faith, and I had to stand in the knowing, and I didn't allow anything to shake me. And as I stood in that knowing, little by little, a little piece of the provision arrived. And ultimately, I was sitting at a lunch meeting. I went on to continue building my business, and I just started acting as if I didn't have cancer. I started living and acting as if it wasn't there. Knowing that it was, but acting as if. And this is a principle that I teach now. But I was sitting there in a lunch meeting with a client, and I asked about his wife, and he started to tell me her story about how she healed from cancer. And then I shared my story, and he looked at me and he said, "Carl, I want you to go home. I want you to get packed. My wife is buying the tickets now. We're making all the reservations. We're sending you on an all-expense, everything paid for trip to the institute that she studied at, that helped her heal." And I couldn't get home fast enough, couldn't get packed fast enough, couldn't get the tickets fast enough. It just couldn't happen fast enough. And I was locked and loaded, and man, I was there. I show up in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, in this hippy dippy, very Asian, weird kind of space, little village, very bizarre to this Texas boy. It's very bizarre, and just so odd for me. But I remember thinking, you know what? I don't care. I'm embracing this. This is my answer. I'm embracing it. I don't care how it's delivered, doesn't matter to me. I'm receiving. And I dove in and I soaked it up. Those weeks, I soaked it up like a sponge. And I learned everything that I teach today, and it was everything that delivered my healing within 30 days. So I went from stage 4 large cell lymphoma to cancer-free in 30 days on that trip. And then I applied the principles very diligently for the next 3 to 5 years, and I still hold on to them for the most part as a daily practice. But I was very, very rigid about it for about 3 years to allow my body to rebuild. I had to rebuild muscle and bone and all kinds of things. So I was cancer-free, but it took about a good 2 years to rebuild my body from what I had experienced with standard of care. But it was all about the journey that I was on at that institute in the middle of the forest of Massachusetts was all about authenticity. It was all about returning to authentic source, authentic provision, authentic thinking, authentic believing, and knowing who you are. It was just all about authenticity. And the more authentic I became in all areas of my life, nutrition, my thoughts, my beliefs, all of that, including resolving what had happened as a child and stepping into the authenticity of who I was, not who I had been conditioned to believe I was. The healing was just, the healing couldn't help but happen. It was really amazing. At the time, I didn't understand it at all. I was just, in a way, I was going through the motions. I was just receiving. I'm like, this doesn't have to make sense to me. It's what I prayed for. It's what I believed for. I'm just going to receive it. I'll understand it later. So once I did heal, then I began to understand it. And that's been a 27 or so year journey of understanding it in a way that I could teach it and help others achieve what I achieved with the tools that I used and some more that I've discovered along the way.
So is your program, what you're doing for people, then self-built, basically?
It is.
Used resources and then utilized part of your journey? I didn't realize that. I thought maybe you went through a specific training course for being able to do what you do.
No, this is built solely, well, it was built on the foundation of my own experience.
Yeah.
And my journey specifically, and then supported with the research to follow, just the understanding of it. It worked. So I didn't question it, but I did want to understand it. How did it work?
Right.
And so that's what I went on. That was the education ultimately. And I did go on to do some certification in the mindset aspect of it, because one of the biggest parts of my healing journey was letting go of my childhood, resolving those traumas, and understanding that the message that those traumas, the conditions that those traumas had placed on my life, were not a reflection of who I actually was. They were not my identity. That was somebody else's message, somebody else's narratives, and somebody else's conditions that had been placed on me. Mm-hmm. That wasn't me. And so a lot of my healing was that journey of discovering who I was underneath and despite all of that. And that's quite fascinating. It's a very fascinating journey. So for me, it was about nutrition and detoxing and supplementation, and all of that. But the bigger part of it for me was the healing of the mind, the renewing of the mind. That was huge. That laid the foundation for everything else to work.
I'm in 100% agreement with that. I got blessed to have a really beautiful program that is holistic, clean, good nutrition. Mm-hmm. But I was a lot the same way as you, that as I saw myself starting to heal within and thinking about what is the most pivotal part of your healing, Camille, it was the inner believing. It was the mindset shifting. It was unprogramming and peeling away the layers that never belonged to me, that I became unshakable. Like my foundation became very sure-footed. So as I'm sitting in front of my clients, I've done this 8 years, wellness and weight loss. We're providing nutrition, good, clean, fuel, oil designed for your body. It will start functioning appropriately. We're giving good supplements. But as I'm sitting here coaching clients on a daily basis, I'm thinking about my own journey, kind of like you, and thinking, really, what has transformed you the most? And if you don't start coaching that inner journey, that mindset, that inner knowing, and helping people unprogram some of the limiting beliefs they've been taught, this is just going to be another diet.
That's right. I don't believe, I no longer believe.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I don't believe that diet alone is a cure.
Really?
I do not.
Yeah.
I in the early days I thought that it was, but it's way beyond that. And I don't even at this point in time, I don't do much with nutrition for sometimes 1 or 2 months into coaching before I address nutrition, because I want to lay that emotional foundation, because there's not a diet on the planet that's going to work if this isn't working.
I agree.
It's just not. This is the foundation for everything else. The supplements, the detoxing, the nutrition, all of that is reliant on the strength of this.
Yeah.
So you're very correct in my opinion, that doing the mindset work that's where the disease begins, and that's where the healing begins.
Yeah.
It's all there.
So we get, I mean, how we advertise is wellness and weight loss. So, you know, there's a lot of people trying to find the next fix, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of look at me like I'm crazy, but as soon as the self-sabotaging starts, I get excited, because I'm like, okay, this is where the learning is going to start taking place.
Right. Yeah.
Because this is where the cycle, and you're just repeating. So let's start looking into the mind and the heart, and let's start discovering what has held you back in your life. This is where the fun starts.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to go down that journey with me, which majority are, because I come with them very authentic, vulnerable with my own stories,
Yep.
genuine, they usually will go down that path with me.
Well, I think it's most people that I encounter and begin to work with are very intrigued by it. I find, though, that the majority takes them a long time. I say a long time. It takes 3 to 6 months very often for them to really get it. You know, that there's that common, especially American mindset of quick fixes.
Yes.
You know, even back in 1993, there I was, knowing that I was in the process of dying, but I thought a pill would send me home and fix me.
Yeah.
That's what I was banking on. I just wanted somebody to throw a pill at me and fix me, and that'd be fine. It's not the way it works. And you know, but people still, that's one of the first mindset matters to get over, is a quick fix. You know, people say to me all the time, just get it out of me. I want the cancer out of me. I'm like, well, it took you, what, you're 58 years old now. You just got diagnosed last year. You've been building this thing for 58 years. You didn't know it, but you've been building it for 58 years. It's not going to be gone tomorrow.
Right.
It's not going to take you 58 years to resolve it, but it is going to take time to resolve it. And if you resolve it authentically, it's going to take time. But it starts here. We got to start resolving this and understand where this all began. And the reality of it is the majority of what drives our lives, our beliefs, our habits, our thought patterns, our identity, all of that is created between the age of 0 and 6. That's where it's all established. And it's established at a time in our lives where we're just sponges. So we're taking all of this stuff in. And if the people that are delivering the messages and the narratives and the stories and all of that to us are doing so from their own unresolved traumas and wounds and things, we're just picking up their stuff and making that our identity. And we don't even know we're doing it.
Yeah. And
then, you know, through the teenage years, when we start to question and challenge, and, you know, everybody thinks teenagers of being very rebellious and all of this, but all they're really trying to do is figure out what's true and what isn't true for themselves, and what they're going to hold on to and what they don't. But if there's not correct guidance in that process, they hold on to the things that had nothing to do with them in the first place. And so they move through life with this identity and these beliefs and thought patterns and habits and just life behaviors that don't serve their conscious desires, because they're all playing from a subconscious narrative that was projected onto them. And this cycle just continues and continues until one day the diagnosis comes. And it doesn't all end up in a cancer diagnosis, but it's diabetes, it's bad relationships, it's broken finances, it's all of these diseases that result from that. But very, very often, especially now, it does result in a cancer diagnosis. And you can't just take a pill, and you can't just eat foods and fix it. It has to be fixed here.
Yeah.
That's my strong conviction, and that's always my starting point. And the bulk of the tools that I teach have to do with that. For my healing to have occurred, I had to deal with my childhood. I had to deal with my childhood. I had to let go of the people that created the offenses, the people that had established the conditions and fostered the traumas. I had to forgive and let all of that go. But then I had to start to identify the truth of who I was. I had to dig out from underneath all of that false identity that I had taken on, and who is the real Carl? Who is that? And I have this belief that when we are conceived, we're conceived in perfection, perfectly authentic, perfectly who we were designed to be. But then there's all these conditions. Now we're attached to mom. So everything that mom's experiencing becomes our experience. And then whatever dad's doing outside of that experience also conditions us. And then we're born into the family. We've got siblings, and then we have teachers, and we have pastors, and we have leaders, and we have all these influences, entertainment, music, movies, all this stuff. And it's all occurring at a time when we don't have that awareness. And so we're just taking on all this stuff. And then we have to sort of reverse engineer our way back to our authenticity as we mature and grow and gain understanding and wisdom and knowledge. We have to use that to return to our authenticity and to truly understand who we actually are. And it's never what the world has told us we are.
Yeah.
You know,
did you say this statement? Because I tell a lot of people, and I know you've said it in some of your posts and some of your mindset trainings and stuff, that you're the creator of your story. Start living your life with intention. Like, you've got to be intentional and live from a conscious level versus just letting the world happen to you, right?
Yeah. There was a study published, I think it was in 2021, and it was an American-based study, and it showed that 95% of the population spends 95 to 99% of their life living subconsciously. So people are walking around thinking they're making choices, conscious choices, but they're not making conscious choices. I use this example all the time. Somebody will say, well, I made a conscious decision. I chose Italian sausage instead of pepperoni on my pizza. That's a conscious decision. Like, no, that's not a conscious decision. That's a subconscious decision. A conscious decision would tell you not to eat pizza at all.
Yeah.
The conscious decision would tell you that pizza is not a natural food for you to be reliant on. That's consciousness. It's not consciousness to choose pepperoni versus Italian sausage. That is a narrative that's been taught. People are driving their cars subconsciously. People are putting on their clothes and getting dressed and even doing their job a lot of the time subconsciously. Life is being lived subconsciously, but that's what we've been trained to do. That's the whole narrative of the world around us, is to it's a go through the motions life and make it to the end the best way that you can, with your fingers crossed, hoping that everything goes right. But then you wake up one day at 40, 50, 60, and you're like, wait a minute, life hasn't gone right.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the problem? Why is my marriage broken? Why don't I have any money in the bank? Why do I have bad health? Why don't I have any friends? Why don't I go to church? Why am I in this crisis of faith? Why is all this happening? And it's all because of what's been programmed in here between 0 and 6. And when you go back to that, we don't have to go dig up bones and scare up ghosts and those kinds of things. and relive all the experiences, but we do have to acknowledge what happened and start to shift that. And as we reprogram, you used that word earlier, as we reprogram it, then we're laying the foundation for all the other things that we need to put into place to actually work. But if we skip this step, then we're really making it hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you spoke about, like, one of the key principles is authenticity, living consciously. Like, how would you guide somebody? And I know, like, we can't talk about it in this total call, but for our viewers, what is like some easy or some baby steps people could take to work towards shifting, living from a conscious level? What are some things that you do in some of your coaching sessions for your clients?
Well, there's a number of different tools that I teach that are mindset tools. Many of them are mindset hacks, subconscious hacks, actually. And it's all part of the self-sabotage coaching that I do. But what we want to do is identify, let's just say, anytime somebody gets a cancer diagnosis, fear is the first thing that comes to the table. That's the first. So, but what is the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear is peace.
Oh, peace. Okay.
It's the opposite of fear. So you have to start from the moment that you're sitting in front of that doctor that tells you have cancer. You have to start consciously reverse engineering that whole fear process. So you have to start telling your subconscious mind in repetitive form, I am in peace. Peace. I embody peace. Peace surrounds me. I'm enveloped in peace. I am at peace. And you repeat that message, and you have to keep repeating that message to reprogram the subconscious mind out of that fear narrative and come into alignment, because you get the fear is triggered, and then you want to live. So now you're in fear, you're scared of not living, but your conscious desire is to live. Your conscious desire is to become cancer-free and to live a good life. That's the conscious desire. But now fear has shown up. Fear overwhelms everything, and your conscious desire doesn't have a fighting chance against all the overwhelm of fear. So the more that you reprogram the fear narrative in the subconscious mind, the resistance to the conscious mind drops, and now you're in synchrony. So you're bringing subconscious mind into alignment with the conscious mind, and everything's working together in unity, in synchrony. And now you can authentically start to heal, and you can make decisions that are healing, that are empowered for healing. And you're not sucked into the vortex of the narrative that is going to cause more destruction, more chaos, more turmoil, more pain, more suffering, more struggle in your life. You can start to gain control of that, but you've got to reprogram the subconscious mind. It's the limiting, the false beliefs, the narratives, the lies, the manipulations, all of those things that are there have to be reprogrammed. One of the best tools is, and one of the key tools is repetition. Simple repetition. You learned by repetition. If somebody tells you you're ugly, if you hear that from people 3 times, your subconscious mind is going to believe that you're ugly. And it's going to play that narrative on you. Consciously, you may have conscious moments and you think, I'm not ugly. But then that subconscious narrative is going to keep playing in the background, and that's going to hijack you. So you have to start repeating to yourself in a case like that. You start repeating, I'm beautiful. I'm easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
I'm wonderful. I'm masterfully made. I'm a work of art. You start talking to yourself that way in repetitious form. And you enlist the people around you that love you to do the same thing. Send you text messages. You're sure beautiful today. And it's all that reprogramming, and it comes through repetition. But then another part of it is gratitude. Gratitude is huge. And people will say to me, I do this in the group often, what are you grateful for? And people will come back, well, I'm awake, I'm alive. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Gratitude for for having achieved what you desire. So if you want to be cancer-free, start giving thanks for being cancer-free, even when you're in the middle of a stage 4 diagnosis. and you've got liver problems and colon problems, and you got this, that, and another, start saying, I'm so grateful for my cancer-free life. I am so grateful that I'm living cancer-free. I'm living abundantly. I'm thriving in my life. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that cancer brought, that has brought me to today, where I am thriving. I am so grateful. That's another hijack to the subconscious mind. It drops the narratives, it drops the resistance, brings you into alignment with your goal. And it's a fundamental spiritual principle that's written in every text you can find, from every doctrine you can find. But giving gratitude before you receive something actually allows you to receive it. It opens the door. So we really just work on a variety of tools, and there's much more extensive ways, deeper ways that I do this. But I really work to teach people how to, in effect, hijack their subconscious mind and program it, train it to be in alignment with their conscious mind. And then when you connect consciousness to heart and spirit, you've got a winning combination. And see, my healing came so swiftly, I believe, because I came into that knowing, and I didn't allow there to be room anymore for any of the other narratives. I just didn't. The other narratives were sent away, and the only narrative there was abundant life. I chose life, and thereby I chose the provision, and I chose to trust in that provision, and I stayed very diligently and very strategically in the flow of that, and didn't allow anything else into the scenario. That's what facilitated my healing. When nutrition and things were revealed, nutrition and Chinese medicine and Ayurvedics and detoxing and all of that, when all of that was revealed to me, and I understood how to implement those, that foundation had been set. So it was easy. At that point, it became easy.
Yeah.
It was easy to become cancer-free in 30 days.
Wow.
And I believe that everybody has the potential to become cancer-free in 30 days. It's the degree to which they can resolve this.
Yeah.
That I think determines that, in large part at least.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought up gratitude, because I remember sitting in front of my psychiatrist, and they told me, you're going to be on your 4 and 5 meds for the rest of your life because the chemicals in your brain are permanently altered, unfortunately. Well, that wasn't true.
They probably weren't altered in the first place.
No, they weren't. And as I got out of my previous home and into my own home and felt safety, and felt, starting to feel calm and peaceful, I vowed to her, I remember in a session, that every morning I get out of bed and my feet hit the ground, I'm going to thank God, source, for my health every morning. And I have committed to that. And I'm guessing you have a pretty good regimen you have set up, but like from the moment my feet hit the ground, thank you for my health today. And I sincerely, intentionally mean it. And as I'm going through my morning, I'm really trying to remain in alignment and giving a lot of gratitude, so that when I show up for my clients, I'm seeing anywhere between 10 and 15 a day, and I'm flowing and I'm moving, that I've set my intention, I'm in alignment, and then I just flow the rest of the day. But I would say, how has Camille experienced joy, and how is she thriving? Gratitude. I'm constantly thinking of what is so wonderful in my life, and there are so many wonderful things.
Right.
It's what's not going right. So I'm glad you really brought that up, because there are a lot of beautiful things in our lives. It's where we place our focus.
Well, gratitude is very important, and what I encourage my clients to do is, before they even get out of bed. So I encourage people to take 30 minutes laying in bed. Just wake up, lay in bed, let the mind start to work. And as the mind begins to work, and you're thinking, that's going to be a difficult appointment at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not terribly excited about that call. Or I've got this obligation and that, and I've got time pressure. And as all of that starts to flow, which is very common in the morning, you start to work through that and you start to reverse engineer the thinking around it all. And then you close it out with a gratitude statement. I am so grateful that the call today at 2 o'clock is spirit-led, that the spirit will flow to and through me in that call. It'll be exactly what it needs to be. I'm so grateful that it is exactly what it needs to be. I'm so grateful that everything that needs to be accomplished today has already been accomplished. And I'm going to flow with it all day today. That's the way to start the day. I tell people all the time, you don't walk out of your front door naked, expecting to get very far. Why do you get up in the morning with your mind naked, expecting to make it through the day? It doesn't work that way. You got to get your mind dressed before you get your body dressed.
Yeah.
Mind dressed, because the minute that you get started on your day, you're going to have a hard time pulling it back. Start the day with it, and you'll get the best results. It's not that you can't time out in the middle of the day and redirect, but it's a lot harder to gain control once something's already set into motion. So you get ahead of it. But the most important part of the practice, I believe, is giving gratitude for achieving your desire before you've actually achieved it. It's very important, and it's very confusing to a lot of people, but it's not. I wrote an article on it yesterday. It's already been provided. Any desire that you have, any need that you have, any want that you have in your life, it's already been provided, but we treat it as though it doesn't exist until we've received it. But that's not the case. It already exists. It exists before we receive it. And when we know that, and when we give gratitude for it, then we get to receive it. It's a really interesting principle to study, and to embrace as part of a healing strategy. And once you get that part of it down, then whatever you do with nutrition, supplementation, detoxing, which are the common healing components, whatever you do with those will be exponentially more powerful and effective, because there won't be any resistance to it. There won't be any lies, any false narratives, any manipulations, any traumas, any dramas going on in here that are in the way. But if those aren't resolved, they're going to be a constant barrier. And people say to me all the time, I've been eating the right thing for 30 years. I've been plant-based for 25 years. I work out every day. I that. There's no reason for me to have cancer. I'm like, well, do you want to figure that out? Because there is a reason. And it's also the reason why all of those wonderful things that you're doing aren't working. It's a very different approach. I'm a bit, I guess I'm unique. I'm a bit out there in my way of coaching. I approach it from a different standpoint than most cancer coaches do. But my emphasis is very heavy on the mindset and getting that resolved before I get into anything else.
Well, and I think that that's what resonates with me so much. Both of my parents passed away from cancer, and there's 5 children, 4 biological, 3 other biological siblings. And if you looked at all of us, my other 3 siblings, I would say, are very fearful of either getting that same, because mom and dad both passed away from the same cancer. So, and my mother's side had terrible heart disease. And I think that they all believe, well, eventually they're either going to get heart disease or they're going to die of cancer. And they're constantly at the thought, right?
Just a narrative.
It's just a narrative, but like there's epigenetics and there's other things that you can do. But if you looked up the type of cancer that my mom and dad had, have you ever looked at that Metaphysical Anatomy book by Louise Hay? the
Mhm.
emotions associated with. You read the description of the emotions along with melanoma, and it fits my parents to a T. So are we just going to continue to do the same thing and have the same mindset?
See, this is the thing. Cancer isn't passed down, but the habits that create cancer, the beliefs that create cancer
Yes.
are passed down.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
what's passed down. And people don't realize that the cells of the body, it all starts in the mind. The mind determines the blood chemistry. The blood chemistry then determines the cellular function and the genetic expression. So it's all here.
Yeah.
It all starts here, and there's increasing awareness of that, but it's not in mainstream protocols
Mhm.
at all. It really isn't. I think I could take Dr. Hammer, who's German New Medicine. He only used mindset, no other tools to heal cancer. And I genuinely believe that that's possible. I've thought about it actually a couple of times of not doing nutrition plans and supplement plans and detox plans and things anymore, but strictly coach on mindset for healing.
Mhm.
I really believe that there's huge power in that, but it's a big leap for people to believe that.
Yeah.
That's something that they have to start, the mindset they have to start experiencing a little bit. I had a client messaging me this morning. I've worked with them for about a year, and they're having light bulb moments right now. It's been almost a year. They're having light bulb moments right now about how their mind is engaged in this process. They had what Dr. Hammer would refer to as hanging healing. So like a suspended healing. They'd gotten so far and then they got stuck and it just wouldn't move. And I kept, and they would say to me, but I'm doing this, doing that. I'm like, yes, I know. And that's all fantastic, but you haven't done this. There's a problem going on here that we're both aware of that has not yet been resolved. As soon as you resolve that, it's going to start ticking along again. And sure enough, that's what's happening. Pennies are dropping, and it's now things are starting to shift, but it's a process. I mean, we've been conditioned this way for our whole lives, and like your siblings, they've been conditioned to believe this. And if they're not careful, they will manifest that reality one way or the other until this changes.
I totally agree with you. So like just talking to you, man, I would hire you. You're hired if anything comes up. You're amazing. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about how to get a hold of you, like some contact information, so that our viewers can get some contact information for you?
Honestly, the best way to reach me is Facebook.
Okay.
I live in Messenger. That's
Okay.
my second home. WhatsApp is very good with my phone number. International WhatsApp is very easy. Those are the two best ways to.
So on Facebook, it's Love Your Cancer-Free Life, right?
Cancer for Life. Yep. And then that'll link everybody to me.
Okay.
And just direct messaging me is the way to go.
And I love that group. So any of the viewers, I would just get on there because it is so inspiring, and all the articles and all the posts that Carl puts on there, as well as some of, I'm guessing, your clientele that you have. Like it's inspiring and it's powerful, and I love what you coach. And I know you have a retreat. Can you tell people a little bit? We've only got a few minutes, a little bit about your retreat that's coming up.
Time is up already. My goodness. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, yeah.
One thing about the group very quickly, there's over 1,000 articles in the group now. Over 1,000 articles logged in the guides section of the group. So you can actually use the group as a coaching tool. It really is. We've designed it very strategically to be a powerful teaching group. But it's all logged in the guides. the retreat is coming up in mid-September, starts on September 16th, and it's going to be a consciousness healing retreat. So while we're going to have great food and powerful supplements and do IVs and all of those kinds of things, what we're going to focus mostly on is teaching all the mindset tools. We're going to be teaching a lot about forgiveness and gratitude and a lifestyle of letting go and authenticity and discovering your true identity, your true self, and learning how to be conscious, continually, or the majority of the time, living consciously. We all slip into subconscious narratives, and the subconscious mind is a valuable tool. We're not trying to displace the subconscious mind. We're just trying to bring it into alignment. But elevating consciousness and elevating the outcomes of life, that really is the mission of the retreat. So it's going to be, I don't know, there's a spiritual quality to the retreat that I'm wanting to fulfill. It's kind of, maybe as I'm thinking about it, it's maybe a little bit of a throwback to that revelation moment I had where we just come into the knowing.
Yeah.
Just knowing. I want to come into that kind of consciousness during this retreat and just teach people how to be the master of their minds and thereby the master and healer of their bodies and their lives. It's I really, sometimes I think I shouldn't have branded around cancer, because I really take the approach of heal your life.
Yeah.
Heal your disease. You know, I've got the cancer label, and it's a great vehicle, and it's certainly, well, right now, cancer rates are through the roof right now, and even the authorities will say that by 2025, 1 in 1 Americans will have cancer. So every American will have cancer in their lifetime, according to current research.
Wow.
And that's shocking. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that I understand. But we have to step into our power and authority, and that's
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you want to get a hold of Carl Mason, go to Facebook, Love Your Cancer-Free Life. He is amazing, and I'm guessing that you would be willing to coach clients, whether they have cancer or don't have cancer, on mindset and rebuilding and empowering yourself. I just want to sincerely thank you for touching my life. I wish you nothing but the best to continue to inspire others, and thank you so much for making time today to be here on our show.
Well, it's my honor, my pleasure. I'm very thankful. Thank you so much.
All right, until next time, everyone, thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to No More Rules, the impact of being you, no matter what. Tune in live the first and third Monday of every month at 8 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join the movement to awaken your inner power and be the creator of your own healthy life with hosts Steph Yost and Camille Barreto, where clean eating is at the core of our inner growth by honoring our body and health. They help shift perceptions, encourage thinking outside the box, and overcoming limiting behaviors and beliefs. You are worthy of living your best life, developing your inner power with clean eating and a healthy lifestyle, discovering your awesomeness. To find out more about Steph and Camille's wellness and weight loss coaching, visit yourimpactwellness.com today and schedule a consultation.